Have you ever felt an unexplainable thirst deep within your soul, a relentless pull, an emptiness that nothing in this world can seem to fill? Imagine, for a moment, a mighty king. He has unimaginable wealth, massive armies, and an entire kingdom at his command. Yet, while hunting, he becomes utterly lost in a vast, scorching desert. The blistering heat slowly drains his life away. Suddenly, his gold and his crown mean absolutely nothing. Parched and dying, he stumbles upon a solitary wanderer with a tiny pouch of water. The king's thirst, his yearning, is so fierce, he offers his entire empire for just one sip. Would you trade everything you own for the one thing you truly need? Sometimes it takes a moment of total desperation or a profound miracle to wake us up. Think of the great scientist who refused to believe in anything beyond logic. He painted "God is nowhere" on every wall of his room. But one day, a mysterious, unexplainable trickle of water washed away the space between the letters. This changed his absolute denial into a shocking revelation. God is now here. Where does this sudden, undeniable yearning come from? Is it an echo carried over from a past life? Or is the divine purposely creating a desert in your life right now just to bring you home? Let's dive deep into the hidden power of yearning and innocence.
Today's satsang is about yearning and innocence. First of all, we will try to understand what yearning is. We will also explore where this yearning comes from and why it arises. In simple terms, yearning means a profound desire, a very deep wish, a fundamental need without which we simply cannot live. It is very important to understand that the life we are currently living is not our only life. We have passed through many lives before this one, which now lie beyond our memory. Who we are in this current life is a continuation, and we have begun this life from the exact point where we left off in our previous birth. Therefore, understand that whatever desires and emotions we have, including this yearning, are deeply connected to our past lives in one way or another. When a child is born into this world, they are completely filled with impressions from their past. The memories of our previous lives reside within our subconscious state. Even older memories remain buried deeper within the unconscious state. Meanwhile, right now, we are operating in the aware or conscious state. So, the yearning we feel in this current lifetime is deeply connected to our ancient consciousness in various ways. We can observe this very clearly. From early childhood, some children naturally lean towards the divine, while others may lean in the exact opposite direction. Whatever actions they performed in their past life begin to manifest in some form in this current life. Our yearning, too, is carried over directly from these previous lifetimes. If we look at the life of Buddha or Mahavir, we see that from their very childhood, from a tender age, they possessed extremely gentle hearts. Even if a bird was struck by an arrow, they would carefully remove the arrow and nurse the bird back to health. If a 5 or 7-year-old child is acting in such a compassionate manner, it clearly means that these are the deeply ingrained impressions from their past lives. It is these very impressions that carry them forward and guide their present life. They simply illuminate the path for that yearning which has been carried over from their past. Therefore, it is incredibly important to truly understand yearning. Yearning can also awaken fresh within this current life. However, for that to happen, the Divine personally creates certain circumstances in your life so that this yearning is born within you. Today, we will explore all of this in great detail. We will understand how some people are born already carrying the yearning from their past lives, while for others, the Divine creates that yearning in this present life just to turn them towards the ultimate truth. First, let us understand the meaning of yearning. What exactly is yearning? I will try to explain the meaning of yearning through a short story. There was once a very great king. While hunting, he lost his way. Even his soldiers could not find him. He ended up reaching a desert. If a king loses his way in the terrible heat of a desert, you can understand how miserable his condition would become. He was so lost, suffering from a terrible thirst for water and in a completely miserable state, when suddenly he saw a small place. He reached there and expressed his desire to drink water from the person present. In a desert, water is more expensive than even gold. It is a priceless jewel. So that person said, "I do have water, but not much. Therefore, you will have to pay a price for it." Now, the king was dying of thirst. He had such a tremendous yearning for water. In that yearning, he said, "I will give you half of my kingdom." The person replied, "No, give me more than this." Then the king agreed to give him even his entire kingdom, just to quench this yearning for water. So, when it becomes a matter of survival in life, a person becomes ready to give up everything. Similarly, until our yearning for the Divine becomes such that we are ready to give up everything, until we reach that state, until we experience that exact condition, neither can we walk the path of the Divine, nor can we attain the Divine. To attain the Divine, there is an immense need for an inner yearning. There is a short story about Farid, about a young man who wanted to attain God. So Baba Farid told him that when your condition becomes such that you cannot even take a single breath, when you are in such an intense state, if you have that same state for attaining the Divine, only then can the Divine be found. When the young man went to bathe in the river with Farid, while bathing, Farid sat on his shoulders. A boy of 15 or 20 years, and this elderly man of 50 or 60 years with such a heavy weight. Even then, the boy threw him down with all his strength. Then Farid asked him, "Where did you get so much strength?" So he replied that I was suffering so much just to take a single breath, that I used my total strength to throw you down. Then Farid said, until you have this much yearning to attain God, you will not meet the divine, nor will your journey towards the divine even begin. Similarly, you already know the story of Tulsidas. When his wife left him and went to her parents' house, he could not stay alone even for a single night without her. He had so much yearning for his wife that he jumped into the river in the torrential rain. Seeing no boat, he started swimming using whatever he could find. It was actually the corpse of a dead person. He did not even realize that. When he reached the other bank, to enter his wife's house, he mistook a snake for a rope and, holding on to the snake, he reached her home. When the wife of Tulsidas saw him in such heavy rain and terrible weather, she said that for this body of flesh and bones, you have risked your life to come to me. If you had this much yearning for God, you could attain the divine. What is there in my body of flesh and bones? You have already experienced physical intimacy with it many times before. Yet you did not find peace, and risking your very life, you have arrived here. This touched the deepest depths of Tulsidas' heart. His heart was shattered into pieces. And going back from there, he felt so much remorse towards himself, thinking, why did I not keep this much yearning for God? So his life was completely transformed. And you know what a great and noble soul Tulsidas became, simply by walking on the path of the divine. Therefore, yearning can completely change your path. Similarly, I am also reminded of the life of Valmiki. He was a notorious robber. He would snatch everything from whoever he found in the forest, and coming home, he would provide for his wife and children. Once he met a sage and tried to rob him, so the sage asked, "Why are you committing all these sins?" He replied, "I have a wife, I have children, I have to take care of them." The sage said, "You are committing so many sins to provide for them. Will they be your partners in this sin?" Valmiki said, "They certainly will be." So the sage said, "Have they ever asked you how you earn the wealth that they use, whether you earn it through sin or through virtue? Go and ask them whether they are partners in your sin or virtue or not." Valmiki said, "If I go home to ask, you will just run away." The sage said, "No, you can tie me to a tree and go. Ask them and then come tell me." He tied the sage and went, and when he went home and asked his wife, she said in clear words, "You married me and brought me here, however you earn is your business. Why should I be a partner in your sins and virtues? You have brought the children into this world as well. All of that is your sin alone." This realization struck him very hard. He thought, for how many lifetimes, for so many years, I have been committing these very sins. And how many sins I have committed just to raise them, yet no one wants to be a partner in my sins. He came back to the sage, untied him, and fell at his feet. Then the sage said, Do not keep so much attachment. Devote your life to the divine. So the sage told him to chant the name of Ram. He could not even say Ram, and so he chanted by saying Mara Mara instead. Later, he eventually said Ram Ram. During his deep meditation, ants even built their home on his body. He moved towards God with such immense yearning, and after many years, he attained the divine. And as we all know, he also wrote the great Valmiki Ramayana. There is such an immense power in yearning that it truly has no end. Similarly, a gentleman used to visit Mahavtar Babaji with a desire to become his disciple. He had a great yearning. However, Mahavtar Babaji, looking at his past life, did not want to make him a disciple just yet. But his yearning was incredibly intense. Mahavtar Babaji told him that if he truly wanted to be a disciple, he should jump off this cliff. The man went and jumped. Then, Babaji brought him back to life and accepted him as his disciple. Therefore, until you possess such a fierce yearning, attaining the divine remains very difficult. So, the question arises, where can we get this yearning? Yearning either comes from our past lives. Just as Yogananda had it, Vivekananda had it, Mahatma Buddha had it, and Mahavir had it. However, if a yearning for God awakens within this current lifetime as well, life is completely transformed. Bringing about this yearning in this life is not in your hands. This is because your past life was simply not on this path. But the divine always finds a way. If you face a massive loss in your work, if all your wealth and property are gone, you become deeply disappointed. This too is the divine play of the Lord. A sense of dispassion is born within you. In Western countries, if such a situation occurs, a person might commit suicide. But in Eastern countries, under similar circumstances, a person does not end his life. The very direction of his life changes. He tries to transform his life. Either he becomes an ascetic, or by doing some core work, he shifts his focus towards the divine. Because to turn a life around by 180 degrees, to completely rotate it, even the divine has to make a tremendous effort. If a person genuinely becomes an ascetic, then slowly, by immersing himself in devotion, he can experience the realization of the divine when the right time comes. In the same way, in today's society, people whose wealth is wiped out in the stock market or lost in gambling also experience profound remorse in life. Some do commit suicide, but others completely change their lives and turn towards the divine. All of this is the divine play meant to transform you. Some people are struck by terrible diseases in life and become deeply troubled. At that point, they begin to spend time with their own inner selves. After all, what else will a sick person do? Lying in bed, his life transforms from the inside and turns towards the divine. And if the divine wishes, he can completely draw that person towards himself, and indeed, they do become devoted. The lives of many people are transformed in this exact manner. All this happens only when yearning enters our lives. In this world, there are also many such individuals who, just from their daily routine, come to realize, what exactly am I doing? I wake up in the morning, finish my work, then spend some time with my wife. Is this all there is to life? A deep sense of awakening is born right within them. And slowly, as this yearning begins to grow, they become connected to the divine in one way or another. Those who are highly educated and mature find this world truly mysterious. They dive into deep study to understand the secrets of this world, and gradually, a time comes when they leave worldly pursuits behind and devote themselves entirely to attaining the divine. I am reminded of a short story. There were two friends. One was a great scientist. He did not believe in God at all. The other was a spiritual person, a philosopher. His entire life was devoted to the divine. Yet, both were very close friends. They would constantly have conversations about this very topic. The scientist had written on the four walls of his room, "God is nowhere." On the second wall as well, "God is nowhere." On the third wall too, "God is nowhere." In this way, he wrote it on all four walls. One day, this scientist was sitting in his room. The philosopher came to visit from outside. He looked at the four walls. He had actually come after praying to the divine, saying, "Oh Lord, show some way so that the feelings of this person may change and he may turn towards you." His prayer truly brought about a great miracle. When he entered the room that day, he noticed that where it was written "God is nowhere," a trickle of water had flowed down right after the letter W on all four walls. Because of this gap, the sentence had changed to "God is now here," meaning God is right here. He called his friend and said, "Look, brother, this is your own room. Where did this water come from exactly after the letter W on all four walls, especially when it is not even raining outside?" The scientist even climbed up to the roof to check, but there was nothing. He was completely amazed. Then the philosopher said, "This is the glory of the divine. You must understand that the divine is everywhere. Is there any place where the divine is not present? Just look outside at this vast world. Look at the oceans. Look at all these moons and stars. After all, what is all this? Even being a scientist, you cannot truly explain the root of everything. And what just happened is nothing short of a miracle." From that very moment, deep faith towards the divine awakened within him, and he turned towards the Lord. Basically, Some incident or another occurs in life that completely turns a person towards the divine. And that is when their yearning truly begins to grow. Basically, as we know, there are only 4 types of horses. No matter how much you hit some horses, they just do not move. Similarly, there are people who do not walk towards the divine at all, just like those horses that do not move. There are some horses that understand just by looking at their master and start moving. Some horses start moving just by seeing the whip. And some start moving just by seeing the shadow of the whip. In the exact same way, yearning arises in the human mind. Just by observing the world, some people develop the desire to go to the divine. Some turn towards the divine after receiving a blow from the Lord, whether through illness, suffering a loss in their business, or finding themselves in some other difficult situation. We have to see for ourselves what kind of horse we are. If we do not move even after being hit, it means we will have to spend many lifetimes just like this, and only after that will we be able to walk on this path. If, by looking at the world all around us, a yearning is born within our life, then our life transforms completely. And the moment we take our first step towards the divine because of that yearning, there is no difficulty in reaching the final step. So, there is truly no end to the grace of the divine. After yearning, the second thing is innocence. Jesus Christ has said, "You can enter into my kingdom when you become like a child." Until you become like children, you cannot enter my kingdom. By becoming like children, he means that a child is so full of innocence, yet lacks worldly knowledge. So, whichever direction you point them in, they engage in it, and as they grow older, they simply let go of that attachment too. But if you grow older, reaching 50, 60, or 70 years of age, and you enter into a state of innocence like a child, wondering, what is life? Why am I living? What is the purpose of my life? When you arrive at this kind of emptiness, like a child, when you enter into innocence, you no longer have any attachment to this world. You want to go towards the source from where the world originated. Meaning, arriving at your innocence, you wish to go towards God. Then a profound emptiness is born within you. Then you are left with no attachment to your wealth. Just as a child becomes ready to leave behind every toy of theirs. They build a house of sand and then happily break it down. Similarly, when this state arises within you and you become as full of innocence as a child, you find the path to enter the kingdom of the divine. Jesus Christ said in very clear words that a camel can pass through the eye of a needle, whereas a wealthy person cannot pass through the eye of a needle. He meant that, literally, a camel does not go through the eye of a needle. But for a wealthy person, if you reduce yourself to nothingness and detach from worldly illusions, then you can pass through the eye of a needle by becoming absolute emptiness. So, The moment you completely remove your attachment from the world, surrender your entire life to the divine, and become empty, the Lord will open His path for you, whether He opens it through yearning or through your innocence. And the one who guides you on this path is the Lord Himself. He alone opens the way, and He alone brings you to Himself. To be completely surrendered from the depths of your heart is His only fundamental requirement.